All right, we made it to Friday here together. We want to welcome you into Coronavirus Inside the Arizona Numbers, where we take a closer look at the numbers here in Arizona to help you make the best decisions for your life and your family. You know their health, you know their tendencies. We're just here to help you find this data so that you can make the safest and best choices for your particular family. I'm Katie Raml. Alongside me here is Garrett Archer. He's our data guru, always helping us find the numbers as they might be buried deep in websites far, far away. We try to make it accessible for you. And if you're joining us in the comments, be sure to post where you're watching from, where you're listening from, and then put your questions there as well. We can help you find the data that you're looking for and explain what makes it most stable, what things are going to make it change. We'll talk you through all of it right here and help you find the information easily. It is Friday, wrapping up a week, and how do the numbers look, Garrett?
All right, I've got the AZDHS dashboard pulled up, so let's just go through them. So far, through the entire pandemic, we have about 191,000 cases, almost 192,000 cases. That's, again, from March. 4,423 deaths. This is 1.3 million tests. Today's cases, we were under 1,000 today, 928. New deaths reported, 40. Again, that's not from a 24-hour period. It actually seems to be coming from about a 30-day period at this point. And then here we are with our PCR numbers, about almost a little over 9,000 PCR diagnostic tests reported today. Did lower the percent positive, which is what we want to see. That's the cumulative percent positive. And then the serology, the antibody tests, about 2,000, and that actually increased by another 1/10 of a point. Both sort of the directions we want to see for the cumulative percent positives.
And as far as Maricopa County itself goes, our most populous county here in Arizona, I'm seeing some viewers all the way from Chula Vista. Love Chula Vista. So I love seeing those cities on there as well. A lot of people can apply this information, although we're talking about Arizona numbers, to anywhere where they live as well. So we hope this helps you find the information too. In Maricopa County, I know we're obviously the bulk of the cases here for Arizona, more than 128,000.
Yes, 130, almost 130,000, 2,500 deaths in the county. The newly reported cases today, as you can see, about 60% or so. That is the sort of what we would typically see for such a populous county. Number of deaths, 19. Someone pointed out to me today that it's interesting. Maricopa County does its own reporting, and they actually reported 71 deaths in today's numbers. And that's something we can kind of go over. To so people, they're like, why are they reporting 71 and then the state is only reporting 19? There is actually a reasonable explanation as to why that occurs. But you can see, just to go continue through Maricopa, the percent positive did go down. 15% is the cumulative. It was 15.1 yesterday, and the serology is at 6.1.
And I wanted to let you explain the difference in numbers as we answer Linda De Leon's question. How many positive cases are retests that tested positive 2 times in a row? The good news, Linda, is they're deduplicated. So even if you tested positive 10 times in a row, you're only counted as 1. All right, now to the counts that you were talking about there, Garrett, that it might look differently on the county's website versus the state's website. I do know that they pull their data at different times of the day. That could be part of the factor. What did you learn?
That is the factor, but there's also some other underlying factors on there. So I'm just going to, again, draw your attention to the number of deaths, 2,536. Confirmed probable, look at that, 2,431 to 105. So let's just look at that for a second. And then I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to move to the Maricopa County dashboard. And that we will see that there is different numbers there. So here on Maricopa County's dashboard, we can see that the death number that Maricopa County is reporting is 2,487. So it is right now reporting everything but the probables. Well, not everything, obviously, but there is some, as you said, difference in the way that the reporting when the data is pulled, because this is a transactional database that just continues to update constantly. So you can see the slight numbers are different. It is in the probables, and that's because death certificates, as you can imagine, these are legal documents. These are these are taken extremely seriously and go through several levels of verification. So while the AZDHS is reporting these numbers at that 2,500, they haven't been fully verified by the medical examiner quite yet. That's why they're considered probable COVID-19, and those numbers will adjust and eventually will sort of merge together. but there's always going to be this sort of delay, and that's why you see 71 for Maricopa and for Maricopa's reporting and 19 for the state, simply because they are on different trajectories what they report, but it is from the same database. It's just that they are looking at the data at different times. They're in different stages of verification of this data.
Yeah, Garrett, I was reading on, I think it was the state site, that about 7% of the cases end up in the probable category while they work to discern whether they belong in a true COVID case or if they're ruled out. So
yeah, we'll see what that is right now. It sort of moves around. It's an unstable number, as you can imagine, for the exact reasons you just stated. And we'll see. We can actually look to see what that number is right now. I've got it pulled up. I'll pull off to the state number. You can see right now they have about 1429 probable cases in the system right now. That's about 1% of all cases that are probable. And with my discussions with some of the people that used to work at AZDHS, it appears that probable has a lot to do with serology cases and what sort of antibodies people have. There's two types of antibodies. This is, I'm not going to go into this too much, but just basically there's two types of antibodies. One that's basically an immediate response, but it's not as good. And then there's one that's a solid response that your body has to COVID. And that probable has something to do with the serology that has an immediate response. These are like that, but as you can see, it's a very low number compared to all the cases. But that's my understanding of what that number might be.
Well, it's nice that they show how many are probable at this point for transparency purposes so that everybody can see how that number equates to the larger number. I think that's a really transparent move that helps people better understand this. Kimberly asks, do the saliva test done at ASU in the fall go under the PCR test in the reporting? All the ASU, although they're not making their specific ASU numbers transparent to the campus itself, they're still counted in the overall numbers here in the state.
Yes, it is a form of a PCR test. It is not a nasal swab. It's the saliva test, but it is still this PCR, which I couldn't pronounce it right now if I can, if I wanted to, but it's essentially, it's a chemical reaction test that basically says this is the, we can indicate that you have the virus. So that's what that is, and it is reported by ASU, and we've seen that since ASU began reporting. As soon as they began reporting, our lags started to go down tremendously. We went from 16, 18 days to 14 days, and now we're at 3. We have no lag in the state whatsoever at this point.
So they're so quick over there with that kind of test, and it's so easy to do. But in addition, I think there was some confusion for folks when they heard ASU was not going to be reporting their numbers. What they meant was they're not going to say we have X number of cases that were caught before they moved into campus, or they showed up here and they got tested, and whatever the case may be, they're not isolating that to ASU, but they're still reporting the numbers into the general bank of 1.3 million tests that we've had turned in.
Yes, correct. That's exactly right. They've decided that they're not going to give any information on students and faculty and anybody else who may have tested positive on campus. But again, they are any sort of tests that are being done by ASU or on ASU's campuses are being fed into the databases.
The general number. Yolanda writes, glad my test just came back negative. I have surgery on Wednesday. Yolanda, happy for you that you got that good news. I know a lot of folks were headed in to take tests before they can have surgery. So people in my family were doing the same thing. And Yolanda, we hope your surgery goes smoothly on Wednesday. We wish you well through that. All right, let's see. I want to get to some more of these questions quickly, but I also want to get to...
Oh, I saw Kristen Strada said, why did Ducey say something about results coming back in 2 days? And they're coming back in about 2 to 3 days right now. So he's not wrong about that. We are getting 2-day results at this point.
And Garrett, what you're tracking is just something even more specific. So it's not wrong in what he said. It's just you're tracking the daily trends day by day.
Yeah, and there are, like, for example, yesterday we talked about how there was one lab that obviously had a massive backlog, and they dumped a bunch of tests on the state yesterday that were 20 days old. But today that didn't occur. So all of our tests that came in today, pretty much, like with some very few exceptions, came in from the last 3 days.
Yeah, that's good news, because when people are waiting a long time for results, if you're feeling sick or you're waiting for surgery or waiting for something else, that is can be unnerving. hour after hour, especially if you're checking a portal or waiting for a phone call or bugging your doctor to find out that information. So it's good news that we're getting that time lowered. As far as the hospital numbers go, I know there were a couple of categories that we were sort of keeping our eyes on for people. How did those turn out today as far as what's gone up, what's gone down? And I think we were also looking at the ER visits too, just to make sure that there weren't any leading indicators at this point.
Yeah, we'll go really briefly through the entire census. This is these are COVID agnostic numbers. This is just the bed counts that are done every single day. This is the ICU bed count. You can see about 80% of the beds, the ICU beds are full. That's down from, I think our high was 91% up here in the middle of July. Emergency visit beds, as you can see, this one hasn't really changed that much over time. It's gone up a little bit, but it's stayed sort of within this 41%. Because as you can imagine, most people aren't spending a lot of time in emergency beds if they have COVID-19. So it's not really applicable to the disease as much. And then here's the inpatient, the general acute. You can see we have had an increase from 79% on August 10th to 83% on August 13th. So we are having a slight increase there. But now we're going to go to the hospital COVID-19 specific metrics and sort of look at what might be causing that. And you can see it's not COVID-19 patients at this moment that is causing that. The COVID-19 patients for the inpatient is still continuing on the very same downward trend. There's a slight bend in the curve, a very slight slowing down, but it is very slight. It is going down by leaps and bounds here. 1359 was reported. That's down from 3517. I mean, that's what, over 2,000 less patients in the inpatient since our top reporting. Ventilator use also went down. ICU beds, you can see that hiccup that we had for the last 2 days has started to fall back down. So this might have just been a hiccup for extended stays, but we'll see what happens over the next couple days on that one. The discharge number, as you can see, the curve is sort of bent. I like to look at the discharge number sort of in this 5 days or so. So you want to look at this sort of a trend. You can see it's sort of bent. And then the emergency room visits, we did sort of spike back up of over 1,000. We were at 927 on the 11th, and we're back over 1,000 right now. But again, 2 days doesn't make a trend, so we're going to watch what happens in a second to see what's going on. Ventilators, someone's asking for ventilators. You can see it's
Margaret just asked that. Yeah. What's the total number?
324 for ventilators. That's the total number that's being used right now. Wow, that is a really cool effect. I didn't know we could do that.
That was very cool.
Yeah. And then,
I agree with you.
Intubations, which is the act of putting the ventilator on, fitting the ventilator, you can see it has gone up a little bit from yesterday, but for the most part, the trend continues on a downward curve.
Yeah, down overall. Jared writes, I wish you guys could make something positive out of this and show the number of recoveries. That would show that the active cases are less than what's shown from the positive. We're happy to show that, Jared. Actually, I think all of these hospital metrics that Garrett just went through are really positive. I think that's really good news when we see that huge curve and us come down the other side of it in so many, many categories. Yeah, we'll see a couple bumps here and there, and it's obviously something that we want to watch closely just so we can let all of you know as soon as we see something changing there. But I really think all those hospital numbers are encouraging and really hopeful. But Garrett, you can actually estimate for us a number we don't really see many other places. You have an estimate of the active category or active cases that you believe we're seeing here in Arizona right now.
Yes. So, and Jared is not incorrect in his assessment. Mm-hmm. It is, when you see that number of 190,000, of course, people would assume that means 190,000 people right now have been confirmed positive, and that is not the case at all. Our confirmed positive that are active, which means they're within 2 to 4 weeks. So sort of anywhere from the last 4 weeks, essentially. The first is anywhere, the most active cases, this is about 13,500. That's the people that have been tested positive in the last 2 weeks. The last 4 weeks, that number is about 36,000. Now, again, to reiterate, this is a confirmed positive. This is not, we don't know the actual number of people that are walking around with COVID-19. Modeling has that closer to in the mid 250,000 or so in Arizona right now. But that's our confirmed positive. Out of that 190,000, anywhere from 13,000 to 36,000 are active infections right now.
So, Jared, we hope that helps to better understand. Of course, there's always the outliers. There's the so-called long haulers, which is the term that's been given to folks who are fighting coronavirus for a very, very long time. So that's just the best range that we can give you at this point, since that specific number is not tracked. Mim writes, I have read the RT ratio, the R naught ratio is very important. Why don't we see that much anymore? We like to show it each and every day so that we can sort of track where it is. We've been following it since it was above 1. It's now below 1. I checked it this morning, 0.81, I believe, if memory serves correct. Garrett, was where we lie in that?
Yes, this is the transmission, the RT. So there's been some discussion that I've seen today about whether it's the R naught or the RT, because an R naught is technically the R0, which is the same estimate but only done during the beginning of a pandemic. And the RT actually isn't the R naught. I'm not an epidemiologist, so we're going to just keep calling it the R naught until some epidemiologist says, no, stop doing that.
Let's change the word altogether, yeah.
Exactly. This is a whole new world, all of us. You can see right here, Arizona is still, and has been all week, estimated to be under 1 in all cases at an 80% confidence. We have a 0.81 right now. Darken the screen really quick so it's easier for people to see. Here we go. And then I'll bring it a little closer. Here we are. You can see right here, as soon as it shows up, 0.81 with a 0.63. Maine is the next closest to us at a 0.83. They're just at the 1. We are the only state, once again, that's still under 1, and we will see, how that goes. You can see, obviously, as you go up the ladder, Hawaii's been here for quite some time, so something's happening in Hawaii. The virus is growing right now in Hawaii with pretty fair amount of confidence. But for most of the states at this point, while no one, because of these estimates are only at an 80% confidence, they're not 100% sure what's going on, obviously, but they're saying we're fairly confident that in these states the virus is sort of subsiding a little bit.
Yeah. Let's see. Lorenzo writes, oh my God, over 4,000 dead. That is a small community wiped out. New Mexico has almost 700 deaths put together. That's closer to 6,000 for the Southwest. Lorenzo, you're not wrong. When we look at these numbers across the U.S. and see 168,000 families have lost a loved one, they are knowing the true consequence of this this pandemic. And so when we talk about the numbers and we kind of cruise through the numbers here, it's to help you better understand. But I can speak for Garrett and I that we never forget that there are 4,423 Arizona families dealing with this right now, and the very real loss that they're going through. Learning of 40 families just in the last 24 hours. And we know so many are in the bigger battle right now of trying to survive this. So you're absolutely right. And we pause to think of those families as well. Thank you, Lorenzo. Let's see. Garrett, some of those deaths that we were talking about were doing the certificate matching, and they were being pulled back as far as 30 days at this point. Do you have a curve so everybody can see where that? So they're plugged in on the curve based on the actual date of death, not when they're finally done reviewing that case. So when we tell you 40 overnight or 148 overnight, that is just the date it's reported to us. It then gets put back in the chart on the date of death, even though there's a discovery phase in all of this.
Exactly, and you can tell by the chart I have pulled up right now. What you do when you're looking at this chart, you look at the light blue as things that were added or changed on the curve today, and the dark blue was what the curve looked like yesterday. And as you can see, even though we have a three-day case and test lag, we've got the death certificates and the confirmed deaths are coming from all over. That we even have one from May that was re-added to the curve today. We've had a couple that were dropped out to just confirm and verify what's going on. But they're coming from essentially all of several days in July as well as August where we're seeing these. So that's why we're still seeing a pretty significant drop in the death numbers, is because when we see these 40 deaths being added, they're not being added to the last couple days. They're being added all over the place right now, and that has a lot to do with verification. They're verifying these death certificates. They're going back with a fine-tooth comb, making sure everything is correct, and then they get re-added, or they get, they might get changed. But this is why it takes a while, and these epidemiologists are just trying to make sure that this is done correctly.
Brenda Brown asks, is Governor Ducey talking today? We do not expect him to make any sort of presentation today. Yesterday, he met with reporters briefly right before we spoke on here, kind of gave us a brief update on several topics, and so we don't expect to hear from him today. Thank you, Brenda, for your question. Also, Jody asks about some of these gym benchmarks that have come out. So let's take a peek at that. Where are we in meeting the benchmarks for gyms? The one thing we can say, and Jody, you probably already know this, that they're only judging it on Thursdays. So that's the day that we'll get the information on whether we're red light, green light, or yellow light for each of those categories. But for all of you on here, we always take a closer look with Garrett as he watches these charts so much closer. But this particular graph is outward facing, so people can see this at home, Jody. And this is on the Arizona Department of Health site. Garrett, walk us through what she's seeing here.
So yeah, this is the dashboard that is being used to decide where we are as far as if we have substantial community spread, moderate spread, or spread. And it's the all state, essentially, the full state. And you can see they bring it back about 2 weeks on both of these. So July 26th is the most recent data they present on this, and that's when they make their decisions. They make their decisions on data that's 2 weeks old. So we can see right now, at least for the percent positive, we have 1 week here that is still in the substantial, but 1 week that's now in the moderate. If next week, which I know is already there, this will then go to the moderate spread next week for the state, simply because we know that this one's already yellow and the next one following that is yellow. This is our per capita counts. You can see we're still in substantial for both of those, so we're at least 2 weeks off of any sort of decision. And on the COVID-like illness surveillance, we're in the moderate. There are 2 counties in the state that are already achieved moderate. We can see Yavapai County in both cases are still in the moderate spread, So technically all the gyms there can apply for a 25% reopening in there, as well as Cochise County. Cochise County is also within moderate at this point.
Garrett, I want to address a couple questions everybody's asking me now. Wait, Katie, we heard the governor was going to have an announcement today. I thought he was speaking. He is going to have an announcement, he said, based on unemployment. And so we do expect to have an announcement. I just don't expect that he specifically is going to give it. Otherwise, we would think that we would have heard from him yesterday on this. So while we are expecting an announcement on that, it's probably going to be released in one of the ways that he communicates with us, either via email, and I'll watch mine for that. And as you all know, I always post it on my Facebook account, so I'll get it up there right away if there's any kind of major declaration. But he is expected to release something. We just don't expect him to verbally do it for us. We expect, in the or an announcement from the staff in his office. So I just want to
put it on Twitter or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so did you pull up specifically Maricopa on this chart? I know we were
going not. I will put up Maricopa.
Let's do that, because so many people are asking about that. We are still solidly in that red category in the middle.
Yes. So you can see by this, no matter what, we are at least in Maricopa County 2 weeks from getting into the moderate spread, and that is definitely a least calculation, because we have to make sure we have 2% positive weeks that are still in the red. We have to get 2 in the yellow, so we have to go back and see if the next the next weekend after this is under 10%, and then we sort of get to proceed on there. You can see right here, the spread right here for the per capita is still at 118. It's going to be 2 weeks at least, or excuse me, 3 weeks at least before Maricopa gets to moderate. So because these two have to fall in there, and it usually takes about, it's calculated every Thursday. So anywhere from 2 weeks at the least for Maricopa.
Okay, both Jeannie and Danielle are asking about separate counties. And Jeannie and Danielle, I'm assuming you're asking about the gyms category. Let me know in the comments if there's something else specific in Mojave County and Yuma County you want to know. Garrett's got Yuma highlighted. Boy, look at that.
Yeah, Yuma's percent positive is not even within the range right now. It's going to be way more than 2 weeks before Yuma makes these two. The COVID-like illness, it appears it's already there. But they have a lot more to go, if you will, for these numbers right here. And Mojave, you can see, Mojave already has one right here, but it is at least 2 weeks no matter what, because of this right here. I believe that these 2 next weeks will be for the moderate spread, so it appears that Mojave will likely be in the moderate within 2 weeks.
Yeah, Jeannie saying, yep, gyms, that's what she wanted to know about. So a couple of weeks, Jeannie, hopefully it's cooler for you in that area working out outdoors. That's what I've been doing. It is hot, man. We're about to, at last check a little while ago, for those of you not watching in Arizona, you know, it's only 2 o'clock here and we were already up past 114 and we could possibly break that record of 117 today. So people are really feeling it here in Arizona. You want to stay healthy by working out, but you're having to go outside. I'm either working out at night if I'm not working or working out at the crack of dawn. And it's just, whew, it's hot. So I know everybody's trying to get through, you know, either the month of August or get through these numbers quicker so that we can safely be working out. Okay. Since we're on this page, let's just stay with some of the other groupings in there. And I know, oh, Julie's asking, where can I find the graphs you're showing? Julie, these are all on the Arizona Department of Health site. But Garrett, I feel like this particular one is so hard to find. Show that.
Yeah, let me take you there. I'm going to stop sharing this so I can take you there. I'm going to start.
I've got a couple pull down bars that I feel it makes it a little bit harder for people to find.
I'll walk you through it. This is taking you from the azdhs.gov, which is just the straight. If you just type that into your bar at the top, you're going to hit this page right here as soon as it pops up. And then here we are. And then we're going to go down here. And here's where you can find the 2 dashboards. You can find them in schools and universities and workplace and community locations. If you click on those, and I'll click on one of them, I'll click on the workplace because that's what we're talking about. And you just scroll down, it's right there. It's not very well, I mean, it should be at the top. I mean, I know they have all this stuff, but in my opinion, they should flip this. They should put the dashboard above and this below, because people might land on this and not realize that the dashboard is below it. And so that's what you do. That's where you go. And you can click on all the counties to get your data.
Yeah, Julie says thank you. Julie, you're welcome. Sorry it's a little buried in there, but hopefully you'll be able to find it. And if not, join us on here. We always kind of help everybody make their way through this site. Let's see. We were just saying, as we pass through this, can we look at some of the other metrics that we're watching, probably specifically schools, because so many people are asking about that too, or restaurants and bars. I know that's on this page too. So whatever is easy.
Yeah, no matter what, all of them have to get into the moderate category. You know, in any case, there's slightly different. There's different sort of what can happen at the moderate category between bars, schools, restaurants, but they all have to get into moderate category before any further action can be taken.
So that's the best place to track it if any of you are interested in looking at that each day. David writes, it would be great if the monsoon storms would start. David, you're so right. You're talking to someone right now. If I'm looking a little sweaty, my AC is out. The repairman's here right now fixing it. So I'm really feeling it. I would love a good monsoon soak. That would be great. All right, let's move. There's David's comment. Absolutely. Okay, let's move through schools. And the chart I showed yesterday, I think, is one of the easiest ones for tracking county to county. It's got the county breakdown in each line there. So there are 3 benchmarks that we have to meet. The CLI under 10%, every county's met that. All 15 have checked that box. And then we have a section of cases that have to be met. And Gila, Graham, Greenlee, and Pima still have yet to meet that metric. And then that sneaky percent positive, that's the tough one, Garrett, that nobody has achieved just yet.
Yes, I'm looking for the link. I can't find it. I do apologize for that exact PDF.
It's okay.
I will take you to the dashboard, and it might be one of those, but we'll take you to the school's dashboard to show where everybody is, and they're all in the same place at this point. There is no state, there is no county right now. The benchmarks for the school openings here. We'll go back to Yavapai really quick because they're the closest, but you can see, because the schools have a specific benchmark for, instead of just 10%, it has to be 7% positivity. They don't have it. They have 7.2% on July 9th. So they just have at least probably one more week. So on Thursday, Yavapai County is going to meet the benchmarks for the schools. And then Cochise County is probably in the same spot. Yes, they have an 8.9. So they're probably going to be in the moderate category next week. But Maricopa County, that, as you can see, since they have to meet that 7%, they're at least 2 weeks off, probably closer to 3 or 4.
Garrett, we have a really good question coming in from Kimberly. Do we know why they haven't standardized reporting for the labs? Is it just because we're just in the middle of the pandemic and they're having to kind of throw this all together as best they can? I mean, I'm just happy we get any numbers at this point, but is that kind of the reason why, or do we even know? I mean, we're dealing with more than a dozen labs out there that are sending information to the state, and we're all trying to put it together and read it and analyze it as best we can.
Yeah, and it is obviously annoying. They standardize it as much as possible. I know it is sort of an issue. We sit here and have this problem in which we look at ourselves and we compare ourselves in some websites to other states, and there might be reporting differences, and so the data is not standardized. So sometimes we see some of these numbers and they may not be accurate. That's one of the things we talk about, the percent positive. Our percent positive is extremely high compared to what it actually is. The reported percent positive is high. It's like 10 to 11%, but our actual percent daily positive is probably closer to 6 to 5.5, 6. So that's sort of on the national level makes it difficult. You know, you'll see like certain national outlets or something will say, oh, Arizona has a 12% positive, and that's not necessarily the case. But it's annoying. But we do our best to kind of sift through the numbers and get the actual one.
I feel like we always try to let people know if we're not comparing apples to apples here. You know, if we're comparing state to state or something like that, or even county to county, when some of them break down the age groups, for instance, we've seen that vary a little bit. That we try to let everybody know, like, okay, these are the numbers coming out of this place. These are the numbers out of this place. Judge it with this filter on, because you have to think of that.
Yeah, and on Joseph Hoffman, but can you normalize the data to enable accurate comparativeness? See, that is the biggest problem. So the answer is it is as normalized as possible in the different jurisdictions and how they report. It's not ideal, but there's just no way that anybody, Johns Hopkins University, even the CDC and all these other places, they don't have the ability to go through the epi curve on a regular basis and detect these percent positives. They just don't have the infrastructure for that. They're not going to send, the MedSys is the system they use in Arizona to track all this information. They're not going to send the entire database, the MedSys database, up to the CDC or the Health and Human Services. That's not going to happen. So we are getting the most standardized data we can. It does have its inaccuracies, but that's why we try again to have it for Maricopa, for Arizona. We try to give you the right ones so that, you know, when we look at them on the national trackers, you know, we can at least say, look, this is what they say, but this is what it actually is.
Yeah. So people are saying open everything up. Everything is allowed to be open except in Arizona, the nightclubs and the gyms and the movie theaters and the water parks. So other than that, businesses are open. Many have trimmed hours. You do need to check that before you go. But outside of that, things are open here in Arizona. It's just whether your business or corporation wants you actually in the building or they're keeping you safe at home. It's those types of things right now. Let's see. Have you talked about the report that compares ADHS to Johns Hopkins for positivity? Have you seen that report out?
Are you talking about Will Humble's report? I've seen Will Humble's report.
Linda, let us know if that's what you're talking about in the comments.
I believe it is. She's talking about Will Humble Will Humble is the former director of the AZDHS, and he put out a blog post comparing the different percent positives, how they're derived, and what's the difference between what we see on Johns Hopkins and what we see other places. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. I've actually had conversations with Will on this exact discussion. You know, Johns Hopkins University, COVID tracking, they're all going to show us at a certain level that we are not at, because we are using, in order to open up the state and make our decisions at the state level, they are using the actual date of percent of collection. And because we've talked about how this data is backfilled, there is no way for Johns Hopkins CDC to actually look at the backfilled data. They just do the reported data. And that sort of causes this noise in the data. It's the best they have, but it is frustrating because, you know, we're going to be at a certain point in 3 to 4 weeks where we're showing moderate status, but if you the same metrics using Johns Hopkins University, we will not be moderate status, even though the using are more accurate because they are the actual date of percentage, actual date of cases, but it's going to cause confusion and conflict because of that. And that's what that blog post was about.
Yeah, he's put out some really helpful stuff because of his resume. It helps kind of people better understand what's happening across the state. And, you know, geez, in January, did we think any of us would be studying these numbers, these types of numbers so closely? So it's been helpful to gain his side as well.
Yeah, I'll even pull up an example here. So, I mean,
great.
Pull up Johns Hopkins University's testing data for us. And this is our reported numbers. You can see right now, Johns Hopkins has us at a moving average of 11.5. That's where it believes our percent positive is. And as you would imagine, over the next 2 weeks, we will not be at 7%, 5%, whatever it is at that time. However, if you look at our actual percent positives, which is what we're talking about, they're not 11.5 today. They're closer again to 6.5.
All right, Garrett, thank you. You hear tears in the background. I think I have a kid crying in the other room. Don't worry, Dad's with him, but it's just, you know, on par with the AC out of the kid crying, and you get it, parents, you get it. Let's see. Okay, Deanna's asking, Garrett, can you find my ICU question from earlier? Deanna, will you post it again? The comments come in so quickly that the screen rolls by and I don't get a chance to read all of them. So Deanna, post your question again, unless Garrett, you can remember off the top of your head, but
I don't, sorry.
You have to read it. So Deanna, post it again. We'll try to find the answer for you on that. As far as our counties go, we're still third, kind of watching that every day too. Yeah, Kimberly writes, all the joys of being a parent and a work from home, school from home parent, right, Kimberly? My gosh, it's juggling all the things. Thank you. For counties, Maricopa County, obviously we're the fourth most populous county, but we're still holding on to that third spot. The numbers, again, as we were talking about earlier, Garrett, we obviously can't compare county to county because counties are different sizes, different populace, but still worth noting as we track things and see little spikes around the country and see things sort of balancing out. I saw someone earlier post about South Dakota, and that's my home state where I was born and most of my family lives. So I watch their numbers too very closely as well, and all the changes there. So
hopefully, actually, I do. You know, I do have a possibility that in the next week or so we'll be able to do more county to county comparisons with the actual true data. It's taken a while, but I've almost got it ready to start using that EpiCurve data from county to county. So hopefully by next week we'll do that.
Are you saying just within Arizona you're putting that data together?
Yeah. Where else, but for our state, I can do that,
right.
And do like a county to county comparison per capita. We can do that. Wow. We might be able to do that next week. But no, as you said, county to county outside of Arizona, we have to use the Johns Hopkins data. That's the only thing we have. And again, we talked about how there's some sort of, it's the normalized, standardized data that we can use, but it's, you know, it's kind of it's as standardized as it can get, but it's not great.
Yeah. Oh, Margaret's writing, I'm loving teaching my daughter. Yeah. You know what? I will say this, you know, obviously school from home is not ideal, but it's really truly beautiful bonding time if you can look at it like that and push your own frustration away sometimes in trying to teach at home. And you really do have a very true sense of how your kids are doing in every single subject. So I'm grateful for that as well, Margaret. You're right. There are some moments that I really love having them here as we learn. Okay, Garrett, I see you're probably reading Deanna's question there.
Yeah.
Let me pop it up on screen and then we can figure out whether we can get to the bottom of this question for her. She's asking, ICU graphs showed COVID bed usage peaking, but not the regular ICU beds. Is she meaning bend or band?
Yeah, the beds are not going up at the same level.
So it squishes in the middle. Shouldn't it have tossed up due to the overflow? Is that something we can
Yes, I have that.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead and pull up the screen and I can show you what she's talking about. So I've got 100 days of bed data from the AZDHS for the ICUs. And this is what Deanna's talking about, this purplish data. This is the ICU, and you can see it is doing exactly what you're talking about. While the total number of ICU beds in use are going up, they're not going up anywhere near the same rate as the ICU beds. It was really putting pressure on the number of ICU beds that were that were being in use. At one point, it was close to, I think it was just at 52% of all ICU beds were COVID-19, and the entirety of ICU beds were about 90%, 91% full. Why they didn't sort of push us into a surge capacity, which it did. Some hospitals did move into surge capacity, not all of them, but some did, is because they started to they started to basically reschedule quote unquote elective surgeries. So some of these surgeries that were needed, required, but could be sort of held off for a little bit. They said, look, we've got COVID-19 issues with staffing, so we're gonna have to push the surgery back for like a week or so, or whatever. And that's sort of why even today the total number of ICU beds is not going down at the same rate as the COVID-19 number, because they're scheduling out those elective surgeries that needed to be scheduled, or in the worst case scenario, something happened and they needed an ICU bed that wasn't COVID-19 specific because they had to not schedule an elective surgery, and somebody needed an ICU bed because of that.
Yeah, basic hospital management overall.
Yes, it's all bed
management, as much as they can. Yeah. Deanna, really good question. And Garrett, I'm so glad you were able to answer that for her. Oh, she's writing, oh, I get it. Thank you. Deanna, thanks for joining us here. Douglas is asking, when will they stop death certificate matching? Will that stop? I mean, it's a review of, and it's done in every like disease that the Department of Health would be tracking that would be a concern of spread to all of us. This is not something COVID centric. This is applied to other diseases that could wildly spread, right?
Yeah, I think there's a sort of a misunderstanding about death certificate matching. That for some reason it's either probable COVID-19, or for some reason because it wasn't taken from the investigative process, it's not the same. But in reality, it is the same. Codes on the death certificates are the same. They're just I mean, think about it. There's I don't know how many hospitals there are in Arizona off the top of my head, but there's a lot of hospitals. There's a lot of medical examiners. There's a lot of different jurisdictions, and they're all feeding into these databases. And sometimes the COVID-19 portion of this database gets overlooked, and they have to go back and say, did we miss anything? So they screen the entire, basically the entire time to see, did we miss any COVID-19 codes? And that's what this is. This isn't a situation where they're looking for symptoms. These are actually coded certificates that may have gone through a separate layer of verification and then were decided it was COVID-19 or taken off. This is so complex. And we're asking epidemiologists to basically say, we need this data in real time, when they're used to basically having all year to get this data as perfect as possible, and then release it on their vital statistics. So we have to give we have to understand that this data is always provisional. It's always provisional. So there's going to be changes, there's going to be updates, but it's not a different type of COVID-19 death if it's done through certificate matching.
Yeah. All right. Boy, we can just chat and chat and chat forever, but we are absolutely out of time. So I want to thank everybody who joined us on here. Your comments mean everything. Thank you for the lively conversation, and we're so happy to answer your questions. I want to say it's a Friday, but on Saturday and Sunday, Garrett still does amazing stuff for us. He posts it on Twitter. If you are interested in catching the numbers over the weekend, you just can't wait to meet us back on Monday. You can do that on his Twitter account @Garrett_Archer. My Twitter account is @Katie Raml. I usually try to retweet his stuff as well in the morning. I didn't get to it today. I feel that's why I'm out of sync. That's why my AC's out. My kid's crying in the other room. That's it, Garrett. I forgot to retweet you. You can also find me on Facebook @NewsFromKatie or @Facebook.com/newsfromkatie, and the very latest in our newscasts at 4, 5, 6, and 10 p.m. Don't forget, any coronavirus topic we missed here can likely be found on our abc15.com page. Use the address that's right there on the screen with that /coronavirus. It'll take you right to the information, and we invite you back on Monday afternoon. We'll walk you through more of the data coming out of Arizona State.